Hello! Today I'll share a method to replicate the THX intro sound. The THX website shows this score for it. It mentions that overall there are 30 voices. These are spread across 11 notes, so we're going to need at least 11 oscillators. I'll open up Phase Plant, and I'll add an analog oscillator. These default to the sawtooth wave, which is what we want. For most of the notes, it says to use 3 voices per note slightly detuned, so we can enable unison, and then set this to 3. I'll copy this until we've got 11 oscillators. Then I'll change their pitches so that it lines up with the notation. I'll be typing these in the semitone shift box here. Feel free to pause here if you want to copy the values. I'll add a limiter because this is going to be very loud. I'll reduce the input gain as well. Now if we play a D3 note, it sounds vaguely like how we want the note to end. In the actual thing, I think the highest note is very quiet, so I'm going to turn that down as well. It mentions we only want 2 voices per note in the bass. I'm going to assume this means the lowest 2 oscillators, so I'll set both of those to 2. I'll add a curve modulator. I'll invert it. I'll make it quite long as well. I'll use this curve to do quite a lot of things. We want the notes to start in bunched up pitches that don't really resemble a chord, and then we want them to gradually fade into the big chord. The way I'll do this is by first setting harmonic to 0 on all of them. The notation says that they start between 200 and 400 Hz with random pitches. I'll first set shift for all of them to 300. I'll assign the curve to a macro, which I'll call reset pitch, and another one called harmonic. For reset pitch, we'll assign it to shift and set it so with a high value, it resets shift to 0. We then need to assign the other macro to the harmonic scale of each oscillator, going from 0 to 1. I'll set the envelope's attack quite long. Because we've set all the oscillators to start with harmonic at 0, that effectively is telling them to ignore the pitch of the MIDI note that's sent in. That means they default to 0 Hz, but because we've got the shift at 300, they'll instead go to 300 Hz. Then this curve tells them to gradually morph back to the correct pitched note. This should now have a very rough approximation of the final sound. Now we can add some randomness. I'll add 2 random modulators with smooth at 100%. I'll assign our curve to set their depth to 0. Just because I find it'll be a bit clearer, I'll assign these to 2 macros. I'll call one of them random 1 and the other random 2. Then for each oscillator, we can assign one of these macros to its shift. I'm doing this quite randomly, but making sure it won't shift any of them below 200 Hz or above 400 Hz. I'll also assign these macros to increase the detune parameter of some of the oscillators. I'll make both of the random modulators be positive only. I'll increase the unison spread of all of the oscillators. In the actual sound, I think there's also a bit of automated panning at the start. So I'll add an LFO and assign it to the pan of the envelope. Make sure it's bipolar. Set it quite slow. And we'll set the curve to modulate its depth down to 0. So it will only be applied at the start. I also think the real sound has a bit of filter automation as well. So I'm going to add 2 filters. I've got a high pass and a low pass here. I'll assign the curve to modulate these so that the sound starts with more of a mid-frequency focus and then opens out to having the full frequency range. I'll add some delay and the ensemble chorus. I'll lengthen the release of the envelope. I also think the envelope should build up more slowly. Now that we're about ready, I'll increase the curve to be much longer. Now turn your speakers up to 11 and we'll hear how that sounds. Thanks for watching.